Let's go.
Giving every piece of my soul. You say you don't know what I'm taking no. Giving every piece of my soul. You say you don't know what I'm taking no. Giving every piece of my soul. You say you don't know what I'm taking no. Giving every piece of my soul. You say you don't know what I'm taking no.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hello, Alex. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. Is it cake or is it not?
It's always cake, man.
It's always. So Alex came over to the UK to see me for how long was it?
Was it like 8 days, 7 days?
Yeah, I think it was about 7 or 8 days. Yeah, and we hung out. I can't even remember how we started speaking. How did we start speak? It was just through Instagram, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we started through Instagram and just like noticed that we have like besides tattooing like the same interests.
Yeah.
And I guess that's how the story started.
Yeah, because we both produce music in our spare time as well. Alex is a very talented producer. You are a very creative type of person, the same as me, and I think that's equally as good as to have people around like that. I think is very important for creative types to hang around with creative people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, for sure.
But so tell the people where you're from, Alex.
I'm from Germany, actually near Cologne, and I moved here like 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And now I'm here.
Where were you before that?
It was near Düsseldorf. Like for the people maybe listening from Germany, they know where that is. And then I got a job like in Cologne, and me and my wife we moved here, and we stayed here. Yeah.
Nice. So what made you stay in Cologne? Just purely for the job?
Yeah, it was purely the job, man. Because I was like traveling from like where I lived before to Cologne every day for like 1.5, 2 hours, like one ride, and it's just a waste of time, man. So we moved.
What job did you do?
Was a graphic designer.
Are you still a graphics designer?
Yeah, I still do that, and I think like it's important to have multiple playgrounds to play on, you know.
Yeah.
Like to still have a fresh mind and like get several inputs.
Yeah.
And not like to be just focused on one thing, you know. That can be very helpful.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. How long have you been graphics designing for?
I am 34 now, and I started like when I was 20, when I finished school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So a long time. So what, like 15 years, 14 years?
Yeah.
Sick. I think graphics design as well is a very it's a very interesting field of work to get into, because I feel like with being a graphics designer, you would have to what looks good and what doesn't look good and stuff like that. And I think you can kind of bring that forward into tattooing as well. I think that it definitely helps having a creative background coming into the industry. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think my advantage was that I like only had to learn how to like do the tattooing craft, and all the design thing was like I had that beforehand, you know.
Yeah. So
I could focus on all the techniques and stuff. Like others have to learn how to use Procreate or Photoshop or whatever they use.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. So how long have you been tattooing then?
It's about 2 years now.
2 years.
Like I started in the first lockdown when COVID started. Yeah.
So what was the first thing you started tattooing? Was it because I think you're amazing at fine line tattooing. I think it is quite a niche. It's quite a niche. How can I say it? It's quite a niche style to get into, but it's an extremely popular one now. But what was the style of tattooing you got into first? Was it straight to fine line, or did you?
It was straight into fine line, and I wouldn't recommend that to anyone, to be fair.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have any idea of like how the skin types are, like how the skin types on different body parts are, like how does it feel to have a 3 round liner versus a 9 round liner in your hands.
Yeah.
This is something like that you have to know. And when you start with fine line, you don't get that experience,
Yeah.
because when you start like with a 9 round liner and do like traditional stuff, it's much easier to
use bigger needles.
Bigger needles.
Yeah, because I feel like especially with smaller needles, especially like a singular needle, I think every wobble in your hand, every discrepancy that you do, it's immediately there. You can't hide that whereas with bigger needles you can kind of hide the hand wobble and the machine shake and stuff like that within a larger needle grouping, because it's just larger for a start. But yeah, I think it's a very brave thing to do, to come into the tattoo industry straight with a single needle or a 3 RL,
Yeah, I didn't know it better, because that's what I saw, and that's what I enjoyed looking at, and that was what was my interest in. So I just like went straight into that. If I'm a self-learned tattoo artist, so if I would have learned like in a studio, it would have been completely different, I guess. Yeah.
So what made you get into the industry? Like how did you become a tattooist? What was your ticket into the industry?
It was during lockdown, and my wife got a tattoo appointment.
Yeah.
And like it was not legal to tattoo in any studio, but I was not in the tattoo game at all. I mean, I had tattoos before, but I was not like into like all the business stuff.
Yeah.
And so the studio which made the appointment just rent an Airbnb place.
Mm-hmm.
And like we went there and like stood in front of this building, and was just like a shithole, really. Like really, really bad.
Yeah.
And I told her, we're not going in here. And she said, no, I want this tattoo from this tattoo artist.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, let's go. And in the end, something beautiful came out, and I was so inspired by that.
Yeah.
That I went home and ordered a CNC tattoo machine. And
CNC, wow.
Tattooing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried that machine. It's
the Wii.
Yeah, the Wii, yeah. Do you know what it is? For me, I think Chinese tattoo machines just aren't it for me. I just think you can tell how cheaply made they are. Like I used the CNC Wii on let me just turn my mic down a tiny bit. That's better. I used the CNC Wii on fake skin, and it definitely felt good on the fake skin, because I feel, because the fake skins, there's not so much bounce with fake skin, because it's quite a hard substance, I suppose. But with flesh, you've got like the skin and the muscle and stuff to like kind of break up the how hard a tattoo machine hits. But with the CNC Wii, I just think it hit super fucking soft, especially when I transitioned from the fake skin. I was using it onto human skin. It was so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing. I practiced on fake skin like for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
Just to build hand muscles and all that stuff and get a steadier hand. And then there was a tattooer who accompanied me. Is it the right word? Yeah.
Accompanied you.
Yeah, accompanied me when I did my first tattoo on skin.
Yeah.
And it was the upper part of the leg. And I started to tattoo with the CNC Wii, and then he said, no, that's not good.
Really?
Let's just switch the machine. And then he had like an EXO or something back then.
Yeah.
Which was like, not, for me now, not the greatest thing, but like back then it was much better than the CNC, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely feel you on that, because it's just, you can just tell. I mean, these, like, obviously I used the Acus tattoo machine, and I got you onto the Acus, didn't I?
Yeah.
And for me, the Acus just performs unbelievably. It's just one of them machines you're quite unsure about in the beginning, and then after you start tattooing with it and you know, trialing and testing different settings out and stuff like that. And I recently did a YouTube video about the best settings that I've found for black and grey smooth shading. But you quickly start to fall in love with that machine. How do you feel the Acus has performed for you? Because I'm pretty sure you used Bishops as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I started with the Packer.
Packer, yeah.
And then I got the shader for the shader for the softer things, and then I got the Acus as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think,
especially the 4.1 stroke is just crazy good, man.
Yeah, I think that cam is the 4.1 cam is by far my favorite one. I think I've used all of them as well. I think I started on the 3.7, and then transitioned to the 4.5 because that was the closest thing that I was using in the Bishop Packer, which was the 4.2. So I thought, okay, it's like a couple of points up from that, but it didn't shade as well unless you drop your volts all the way down, which I didn't know back then. But yeah, the 4.1 cam is ridiculous. It's definitely like, especially when you start, especially when you start messing around with the hertz and the motor setting and torque and stuff like that. It's insane. What is your Acus setup for your fine line? What do you set your Acus up for your fine line?
Like, first of all, it always depends, of course, on the skin type and on the body area that you're tattooing. But like in general, it's obviously the 4.1 stroke, and then in hertz, I go from like 80 to maybe 88 hertz.
Okay.
And then on the motor it's +1 or +2. But when I shade, I drop the motor down a bit, so the machine hits a bit softer, you know, so I can do multiple passes on one certain area. Yeah.
So would you change your motor strength depending on, so because with the Acus you can use, I think it goes from -3 to +2, doesn't it? So you go +1 and +2, right?
Yeah.
So do you
just to make sure that it's in like on the first or second pass, you know, so I don't have to go over the same line like over and over again.
Yeah. So it punches the ink in quick rather than doing multiple passes to traumatize the skin, and then you could have healing issues and stuff like that. So what are your needles? What's your needle setup for fine line? Obviously, you know, brands and stuff like that. I want to know. I want to know brands, Alex. I need to know brands. I need to know.
It's Quadrant, man. Like most of it is Quadrant. Yeah, I use it's a 35 1RL long taper for the really, really fine lines. Sometimes I even use like I think it's a 30 1RL, which is even like a bit tighter. Yeah. But mostly it's 35. And then I use all the 3 round ranges actually.
Okay.
From 25 to 35, yeah.
Okay, so I was speaking to a girl recently. It was a couple of days ago. She Ellie told me she used it because she's a fine line tattooist as well. She's just started out, but she told me there's this new line Killer Ink do, and they have a 0.22 needle.
Yeah, I have one brand which does that 0.22 as well. What was the name again? It's Envy, I guess. Yeah.
Envy cartridges. I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're very good as well, I think. Yeah,
what
I like them.
What do you find the 0.22s nicer to work with, or what's your go-to for like really fight like a 1 RL? Would you just stick at like a 0.25 1 RL? Or is it a 0.30?
I've never used it. Like the thing is when I look at my designs, like I try to design like for the gauge of the needles, you know. Yeah. Like I try to determine like when I do the design, okay, this is the needle that I'm gonna use for this like type of line that I want to do. And then when I put the stencil on the skin, I can like still check like how it looks and what needles I should use, and mostly it's not like under a 35 1RL.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
so you just use a 0.35 1RL for most of your
Yeah.
fine line work.
Yeah, and then the 3 obviously, yeah.
Yeah, and then a 3 to shade or
Because
something.
sometimes, you know, like nowadays everyone thinks like fine line is always 1RL, but I don't think that's the way you should go, you know. It's
No.
always like what would be most pleasing for the eye when it's on the skin.
Yeah.
I think that's always the question that you should ask yourself.
Mhm.
Like, can I build contrast even in fine line? Like
Yeah.
double line maybe with 3, and then like build contrast with the 1RL,
Mm.
and like not be too strict in what may be the definition of fine line.
Yeah.
Like when I use like 1RL and like put a bold line next to it with a 7RL, is it still fine line? Yes or no?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean the definition of fine line is quite a vast one, isn't it? Because it's like, where do you draw the line? No pun intended. But where do you draw
Yeah.
the line? You know, like is it anything above a 3RL is not now fine line, and it's just like a standard tattoo, like a lined tattoo, or is it? Do you know what I mean? Or is it this specific style? Because the picture that I've used in the overlay here is the brain one with the heart, which is really cool. It's a really cool concept, you know, with the heart and the brains connected and stuff. It's really cool.
Thank you, man.
I can see you've probably used the 3 going. Do you know the line down from the heart?
Yeah.
And then you've got the circle in the middle. What was that? What was that using? Was that a 3? Or
That was a 3. Yeah, let me just open it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good concept. How do you I mean, we'll speak a bit about designing and stuff after you've explained a bit more about this tattoo on the screen, but yeah, that's super interesting to know like where to put things, because it looks like there's a lot of things on their own, like small squares and little dots and squiggles here and there, and it's like how do you even come up with that? Do you know what I mean? It's insane.
Yeah, so I think that was all 3RL, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Even
it
the
was all 3RL.
even the small brain
that was
things.
Yeah, that was all 3RL. I think it was even a 35 gauge.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, see, whenever I do three round liner stuff, mine always just looks super thick, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't look like fine line anymore because it's too thick.
Really?
Yeah, but maybe I'm just going a bit too deep in the skin, and it's just using I'm not using just the taper of the needle. I'm using just a bit past that, so it's actually, but it's not going too deep to blow out and stuff. So it's just going past it, so it's a bit thicker. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the feeling is totally different. Like even when you take a 5RL like after,
Yeah,
the feeling is totally different. That's why I said like when I would like when someone would ask me how to start, I would say like don't go under like a 5RL just to get the feeling, you know.
yeah. So how do you do your concepts, like your design concepts? Where does that come from? Is it just purely what you think you want to see in your head, and you just? How long would it take you to do? Do you take inspiration from other artists? Do you have a favorite artist that you take inspiration from?
Yeah, there's a couple actually. You know, it's like obviously like Oscar Kelmo.
Mm-hmm.
I really dig his stuff. But then there are so many artists like, and I try to like take like little bits out and put them like into my concepts.
Yeah.
Or like have a close look at how they can create something interesting, you know, with small amount of ink actually, because it's like actually the whole lower arm, but it's not much use, you know.
Yeah. So would you say you've got a fast hand speed or a slow hand speed when it comes to lining and fine line?
No, it's really slow, man.
Really slow.
Because that was something that I really struggled with when I started tattooing, because everyone says something different, you know.
Yeah.
Like put your hertz or your volts down. That's better for small needle groupings.
Yeah.
And there are others like who even use like a bishop liner at like 8 volts and do like 1 RL stuff with it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
crazy
it
though for
always
me.
depends on, yeah, yeah. It always depends on your hand speed, on your technique. Like, do you want to do one pass lines? Do you want to
Yeah.
like build lines up?
Yeah.
And in the end, you have to find your sweet spot, what feels good, what feels best for you. It's always good to see how things heal when you start tattooing,
Yeah.
because then you can see, okay, maybe I went over that like too heavy, or like one time over the limit, you know?
So with fine line, do you feel like fine line tattooing doesn't heal as great as other styles of tattooing? Do you really think that you say if you used a 1 RL for most things within a tattoo, do you think it's got better chance of healing with a 3 round liner, or would you say it's got a better chance of healing doing multiple passes with a 1 to build up the, you know, certain thicknesses? Maybe when you say if you're doing like a word or a piece of lettering or something, and you're using the 1 RL to like build up the real small parts of the letters, and then building it even more for the thicker parts.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. But in general, I would say like the less passes you do, the better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like for anything, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like
exactly
for shading as well. Of course, you can, or you should build up your shades to like get the tones in the place where they should be. But even with shading, you can overwork the skin very quickly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 For sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you can build your setup around trying to, you know, reduce the risk of skin trauma as much as possible, to the point where you can use lower passes, less passes. You can use long taper needles, which are far better on the skin than the medium tapers, for instance. But I feel like with longer taper needles, I think you have to. They're not as good as punching the ink into the skin as medium taper needles, or shorter taper needles. And I think it's finding that balance, isn't it? Tattooing is just finding that balance on, you know, the right hand speed to suit your machine speed, to suit the cam that's in the machine, and then it's then balancing everything up to try and just reduce that skin trauma so it heals good.
Yeah, and with I think with the smaller groupings in general as well, with the bigger, but with the smaller ones, if you have like a 1 RL and do one pass,
Yeah.
I always tended to be safe and do another pass over it, just to make sure that the ink is in like properly, you know.
Yeah.
But you will see a difference when it's healed, for sure. Like when you get a line in one pass and even only do one pass more on another one, you will see the difference between these two lines.
Yeah.
Even if you like hit the exact same line once again, because you pack twice as much ink in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you will see a difference.
Yeah. Do you think using, because for me, I know when I use 0.30 needles compared to 0.35, which is a standard gauge, do you find, well, I find that using 0.30 needles reduces a bit of skin redness and bleeding from the skin. Not in all cases. Some clients' skin just could be brutal, or you've got your machine turned up too high or whatever, because the first port of call when you have got skin redness is to reduce the volts or the hertz in your tattoo machine. Have you ever found a difference between using a 0.35 gauge to a 0.30, or even a 0.25 or a 0.22 gauge? Do you think there's a difference in redness of skin and bleeding?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah. Like one thing is that I like when someone wants maybe a fine line tattoo like in the hip area or something like that, I always try to avoid like to go under a 0.35, because there's so much like meat, like I would say, like in the skin that it almost looks like it's cut, and you can't even see being properly. That's the experience that I made.
So that's the super fine needles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I try to avoid them in certain
them.
areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if someone wants a fine line tattoo, the client doesn't know if it's like a 0.25 or 0.3 or a
That's
3.5,
true.
you know.
Yeah, it's very true.
Like no one will say, oh, that's not a fine line because it's like a 0.35 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid that. And always depending on the skin, if you can already see that the person has like very sensitive skin or very light skin, they tend to be very sensitive. Then I tend to use like a bit of a bigger gauge needle.
Yeah. So when I first started tattooing, which was 10 years ago now, 10 years ago, yeah, it's about 10 years ago this month. There was no sources of information for me to learn from. So I was going to tattooing conventions, getting my camera out, sitting there on a chair, on a fold out chair, video recording my favorite tattooists, and then going home and studying their hand techniques and stuff like that. Have you found, coming into the industry, having tattooed 2 years, that you found a lot of information that you want to? Do you think what I'm trying to say is, do you think it's a good thing that there's lots of information for anybody to use, or do you think certain things should be left, like pulled back a bit?
I think it's good there's much information, but I think when you start out tattooing, it's hard to like put all the information into the right space for yourself.
Yeah. It because there's so much information, it's confusing to know what's right and what's wrong, kind of thing. Or should I learn that at this stage of my career, or should I learn that at this stage? Should I try this? And I think that's one thing that I try and strive in my courses and my teachings is, you know, because there's so much information out there. I've flown over to many places and worked with many of the best tattooists, and you know, I've kind of taken bits from different artists from around the world where I've worked, and I've kind of just like joined the dots and made it super simple in my own head, and it's just trying to outlay that to other people, which is what Ink Hustlers was about, giving you information at certain times when you need to learn that information, because to have all the information at once is just super confusing to kind of soak it in, especially someone first starting out in the industry. Have you found that it's super confusing?
Yeah, totally. Because like how do you select the information that you get out of a video, you know? You in the beginning you maybe select because you like the artist, or you like the artwork that he does.
Yeah.
And if that artist maybe uses a tattoo machine which has a 2.7 stroke, and you try to do like bold lines with it, that won't work very well without overworking the skin, you know?
Yeah.
And this is something that you can only learn with experience.
Yeah.
And you have to like have an eye for the right things that you should learn. But like I said in the beginning, that's very hard actually.
Yeah. I know when I first started tattooing, I had a lot of old school people in the industry, some big names as well, come out and call me out and tell me I'm wrong for giving away secrets and informations that have been, industry secret for many, many years, over 20, 30 years. But the way I saw it is, I went for an apprenticeship once, and I really wanted to become a tattooist. And the guy that I went to, I mean, he wasn't that great, to be honest. He wasn't. He was in it for the wrong reasons. He was in it for women and money and stuff like that, right? He didn't really enjoy the art. It was just one of those things where he saw a bit of clout, I suppose you could call it. And I went to, because he like where I'm from, it's a very small area. I'm not going to say his name, but he he was in it for the wrong reasons. I was in it for the right reasons, because I've been a creative person for the whole of my life, right? And I went to this guy and I was like, look, let's. I mean, we spoke about becoming an apprentice and stuff like that, and he eventually agreed to it, and then he was like, nah. Like, he saw how quick I was catching on to things, and he was teaching me things that, when I look back now, I'm like, fuck me, that's so wrong. But I think there are bad. I think it's because there's this argument in the industry. It's like, do you teach yourself because your class is a scratcher? Do you teach yourself, or can you work through someone's course? Do you know what I mean? And then apply it to fake skin, then apply it to human skin, maybe friends or family or whatever, that will be guinea pigs for you to learn on. Do you, for me, I'm going to give my opinion on it. I don't think it's bad at all to learn from someone's course, especially now there's so much information out there. I think it's an extremely easy thing to get into the industry, but it's just it's a different ball game trying to make it in the industry. I think it's extremely hard. I think you have to have extreme determination. I think you have to have, you basically have to give up your life to become a tattooist, I think.
Yeah, you have to have a strong will. I think it's the hardest thing that I've ever learned, to be fair.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
it is.
Same here.
I wouldn't have, like, when I started out, I wouldn't have thought that it would, like, take so much.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah, like, I picked it up quick, and then you just slow down. Like, you slow down so much. It's very hard.
Yeah, and then you start like yeah, and sometimes you look at your old work and you were like, maybe it was better, or maybe it's I'm getting better, or the old thing was better, and then you start, like, questioning yourself. I have that all the time,
Yeah. How do you?
But I think that's part of tattooing, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
That you're never
satisfied
with what you do.
Yeah. I sometimes look back at my old stuff and I'm like, man, I think I prefer my old way of tattooing. But then, since finding this, I know for a fact I'm not going to change anything from my my setup now. 66 hertz on the ACUS is extremely slow, but because I've slowed my hand speed down with it as well, I can really get a smooth shade. And with lining as well, I do feel like I do need to punch the hertz up a tiny bit. What's your volts that you run at? About from 75 to 80, is it? 75 to 85?
The hertz or the volts?
No, the hertz that you use on the ACUS.
The hertz. It's for the finer stuff, it's like 80 to 88, actually.
Yeah. Well, even for say if you're using like a one RL, you're still using the same hertz.
I did a 1 RL tattoo today, and I did a 1 RL tattoo today, and I bumped it up to 82, and for the motor it was on +1 or +2, I guess.
+2, yeah.
And just went straight into it, like one pass, and I'm pretty sure that's the way it heals best,
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you've done that because it heals better, and you can see it in the skin.
Because
it goes in.
I feel like for shade, it goes in straight. And for shading, yes, I would turn down the volts for sure, or the hertz.
Yeah. Do you think shading's more traumatic to the skin than lining?
I don't think so. No. I think lining is more like. It always depends on the piece, if you have like a very, very dark piece with all the shadows like down to blacks and all that stuff. I think that could be very traumatic.
Yeah.
But I think like line work only can be quite traumatic to skin, even like especially when you don't like put them in correctly. Like when you have a single needle and you go over the same spot like 5 or 6 times because you think that it's not in. You can just screw the skin up,
Yeah. So for your tonal selections, I know in my game and your game it's a bit different. with shading, you have to really be careful with what tones you pick. But what is it the same? Does it kind of like transfer into fine line? Do you have to choose what tones you like? Are you still careful with what tones you pick in fine line, or do you use mainly blacks, like dark black?
You just cut out. You mean like the gray tones for fine line stuff?
Do you use grey tones? Do you water your black ink down?
I actually have the same drop system for lining and for shading.
Yeah. Can you tell that? Can you say what it is?
Yeah, it's full black, and then it's 75% black, and
is this dynamic?
50%
dynamic ink.
No. After the new inks were released, I switched to Eclipse Black after the new inks came out. Yeah.
Okay.
Because at that time Dynamic didn't have the new inks out, but I needed a new ink, so I went to use Eclipse. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's Reach certified.
Yeah.
And so
then it's 12-6-3-1 drop.
So your drop system is a full black cup of Eclipse black.
Yeah.
And then 12-6-3-1.
That's a full cup, and then 75% black.
So 3/4, yeah.
Yeah, then it's 50%, and then 12-6-3-1.
Okay, cool. That's cool. What do you wash your tattoos down with while you're tattooing? And do you use like tattoo ointment as well to reduce, to like bead the ink while you're tattooing?
Yeah, I use Ink Ease as tattoo butter, and I tend to, like, especially if it's like a bigger one.
Yeah.
I tend to like dab as much as I can instead of wiping.
Yeah.
Because like when you have so many fine lines, you don't want to lose any detail,
Yeah.
So what I tend to do in the beginning, I just dab, and then when I really need to clean it, I do it with green soap, and like in between sometimes with distilled water, but mostly it's just like with the dry paper towel actually.
Yeah. Do you stretch the skin much while you're tattooing? Do you really stretch it, or does it depend on the area that you're tattooing?
Especially for lining, I think you definitely have a good stretch to get like an even line. Yeah.
Okay. Say you finish your tattoo, it's all good to go. What do you tell your clients to hit, like how to heal the tattoo? What's your process? Because I've asked many people this, and they've all given different answers. So I may as well ask you and see what you say to your client. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So I've asked many different people that's come on the podcast how they tell their clients to heal their tattoos. What's your process that you say for your client how do you tell your client to heal their tattoos?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. The process of healing, right?
Yeah.
Now it's better. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. This is terrible. I don't know what's going on with this. I can hear you.
Well, you have to clear your trash.
I don't even think it's that. My computer's on, the CPU's on 3%. It's fine. It's just my internet, I think. It's fucking mental. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Yeah, explain to me what you tell clients about the healing process. How do you heal your tattoos?
Yeah.
This is terrible, isn't it? Can you hear me?
See me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Explain your healing process. You tell clients.
Wait, you're just lagging again.
Oh, this is mental. This is honestly mental. It's fucking crazy, bruv.
I think it's getting better now.
Yeah, explain your healing process. Explain your healing process.
Sorry.
I'm trying to get it out. It's like, it's fucked.
Yeah. It always starts freezing when you
When I try and
put the same
speak.
question again. Okay.
What the fuck? You're crying. Look at you. This is mental, mate. I've never known anything like it. Yeah. Tell me about your healing process and what you tell clients how to heal their tattoos.
Like in the very end, I just like wipe it down with green soap,
Yeah.
and then I use I have to think about what's it called in English. It's just like an antisepticum, something like that.
Yeah.
Like
a
from
green.
the pharmacy. Yeah, yeah.
Really? Like a
Yeah.
Bactine kind of thing.
Yeah, like when you have like a normal wound, like
Wound,
you spray it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to kill all the bacteria, and then I just wipe it dry, and put on second skin
Yeah.
film,
Mm.
and they leave it on for like 2 or 3 days, and then they pull it off on the water, like in the shower,
Yeah.
and they have to make sure that they like pull it off like not like you would change pages in a book, but like tear it off like parallel to the skin, you know.
Yeah, like a second
Just to
skin.
make
Yeah.
just to make sure that all the pigments stay in the skin where they should.
Yeah.
And then I tell them to wash it like with water, and if they have with with like a special soap.
Yeah, like a zero fragrance one.
Yeah, exactly. And then I tell them to put cream on it like once or twice a day.
Yeah.
Not too much, really, really thin, because especially with fine lines, the skin doesn't like if it's like too thick on the skin, because
Yeah.
the skin can't breathe, like it's for any tattoo. But you can see a difference in the healing process when there's like always very thick layer of cream on the skin, which
Yeah.
is not good.
Yeah. Do you work in a studio? Have you got your own studio?
Yeah, I have my music studio, you mean, or like the tattoo studio?
Yeah, tattoo studio.
Yeah, I have a private place that I share with a photographer.
Yeah.
So it's us two in there, and like we have a schedule that we share. And yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So you like split the rent that way?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How expensive is it for renting a studio in Germany? Because I know in England rents have just gone through the roof, man. Like my apartment rent's gone up £500 this for the next month. Food's gone up. It's crazy, man. It's crazy over here.
Yeah, it's equal in Germany, man. It's equal in Germany. Like I was kind of lucky, I guess. It's like I pay like around 1,000 for my place, which is still a lot of money. But in Cologne, the rents anyway. I mean, it's the same in UK actually. You know, like when you have a look at the prices in London, it's like the same.
It's the same.
Even more expensive, I guess.
Yeah, because I mean, food for me, like I do order food through Deliveroo and Uber Eats a lot. I do that. I spend a stupid amount of money on that. So it's like, yeah, Nando's every fucking day. I get Starbucks in the morning delivered. Fuck, it's so bad.
But
something
in
I
the UK,
definitely
it seems more common in the UK though.
Does it?
Yeah, like we have some deliveries, but I don't know anyone who orders like through delivery like 3 times a day, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm pretty excessive, all right? I know I'm very excessive, but it's definitely
it's the
something I have
experience, you know? Like being on the phone, and selecting the foods. The experience that you pay for.
And I think it's just easy, you know, when you've got a hectic life as well. Like it's part of the tattoo lifestyle, I suppose. You have to save time by ordering in food instead of going to the shop and picking up from Nah, it's something I definitely have to curb I guess, in my life is my my spending habits on food, especially because it's fucking brutal, so bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if my internet's going out or not. It's so weird. I keep it's so delayed.
Yeah, it is. It is actually.
Okay, so Alex, what keeps you motivated? How do you keep motivation? How do you find keeping motivation on down days as well, where you don't feel as great?
That's a hard question, actually. I think that as long as you really like what you're doing, you can still cope with the lower days.
Yeah.
Like if you really burn for it,
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's the way you should go. If you like stand up every morning and don't want to do what you have to do like every day, then something is wrong.
Yeah.
And
maybe you're in the wrong thing, the wrong industry,
like
the wrong job.
Like if you always need like something that keeps you at a certain level to do your job every day, then I think something is wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have?
But on the other hand, it's like I make a lot of music, I like feed my brain with the stuff that I like.
Yeah.
And get influences from everything and everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that keeps you like doing your stuff.
Yeah. Do you think creative people have to have time to do nothing? I keep seeing that meme go around about creative people having to have time off to kind of like reorder their brains and stuff. Do you think that's a thing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's very hard for me actually because I always think I have to do something.
Yeah, I feel
But,
like yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I'm kind of in two minds though, because I feel like I do really want to do something all the time, but then I feel like I do get a lot of pressure on myself. I do put a lot of pressure on myself to try and I mean, I've got a very good routine, but then I think to make it in this industry especially, you really have to give 5 years of just solidly doing it, like at least 3 years. You kind of have to sell your free time, and to really give every bit of spare time you do have to tattooing, especially if you've got another job as well.
Yeah. But I think that like at the same time, the brain needs to like cope with all the things that you pick up and learn and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And if you just keep like pushing it onto each other, onto everything else, I think that doesn't help you either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. What do you do in your downtime away from tattooing? I know you make music and stuff. Do you do anything else away from tattooing?
Yeah, like spend time with my wife. I drive the motorcycle, like being outside, Like
Yeah.
I do like to I do like photography. I do like videography.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome, man. What bike do you have?
It's a Honda Fireblade.
Fireblade. Sick.
Yeah.
I rate that. I heard actually recently you just come off it, right? Was that the bike you came off? Was that the Fireblade on a track day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a track day. Yeah, it was bad, man.
Did you get?
I didn't get injured very.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't get injured or anything like very bad, but yeah, it was my first accident ever. Actually, like I didn't even have an accident with a car.
Yeah.
In like my whole entire life, and that was the first accident I've ever had. It was terrible, man.
Did you manage to repair it all?
Yeah, that was the first thing I did when I came home. Actually,
Was it?
I went online and then I looked at all the at the charts for the bike, like all the explosion parts in it, and I ordered everything new. Yeah.
Awesome.
My heart was broken.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I bet it was. Yeah. Wow. I remember when I crashed my first car. Like I put so much time and effort into it. I put coilovers on it, dropped it, resprayed some of the wing mirror caps and stuff, like put new wheels on it and upgraded the engine a bit. And I think it was a Fiat Punto back in the day. It was a ridiculous car to think that, but I was very young, so it's like one of my first cars. But I writ it off in a McDonald's. I came around, so like in McDonald's there's like it used to be like a single road round, and then they just wanted to innovate, right? They innovated the drive-through experience, and they made it into double lanes. But they didn't put any like yellow like lines across the curb, and this curb was high, so I came round just like any other night. Came round and I went up this curb. Both like my wheel, I think it was my right wheel, came underneath the car, folded underneath the car, ripped the car off immediately. Airbags flew off, and I was like, what the hell have I just done? And like guys across the car park came running over, and I like clambered out of this like smoky fucking car, because when airbags go off, it's all like smoke and shit that goes off as well. And like powder, like white powdery smoke, and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And he was like, "Are you good? Are you good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'll just." And then I looked around the front, and I was like, "Oh shit! Like this is horrific. This is really bad." And yeah, and then I drove the car back to my mum's, and it was horrific. Everything was scraping along the ground. You know, the wheel wouldn't turn straight. I was, you know, the wheel was literally folded under the car. So I was like, oh fucking hell, what do I do here? So I thought, right, I'm just gonna try and drive it back home. I was about 7 miles away. Drove it back home. Thankfully, it was in the middle of nowhere, so it wasn't too bad. And yeah, it was just the worst thing. And then yeah, and then I lied to my mum about hitting a fox. I was like, wow. So coming in, so do you have any tips for new artists coming into the tattoo industry? What's like a really good tip that you can give them?
Yeah, don't give up.
Don't give up. Yeah, I mean that's an obvious one.
That's the first thing. Yeah, because you'll have your downs, maybe more than your ups.
Yeah,
and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
And be nice to your clients, I would say.
Be nice, yeah.
That's an important thing.
Try and work with them.
Try work with them. Maybe they're nervous. Take some of that off of them. Because I think if the client feels comfortable with you, that's maybe not as important as the final result of the tattoo, but it's a big part, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that you can make sure that they maybe return for another tattoo. I think to have like a foundation of clients is very, very important.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays with Instagram, where they change their algorithm every single day. It's important to have a certain base of clients who come back to your place. Yeah.
Do you find, just touching on the algorithm on Instagram, do you find that happen a lot? I know we've had conversations on Instagram as well about, you know, video content being pushed way more than there's pictures, than there's reels, and there's, you know, do you have TikTok?
Yeah, I do have TikTok. Yeah. I think it's the same content like I have on Instagram, but I don't like gain any new customers via TikTok. It's just like for entertainment, I guess.
Yeah. I think algorithms are very hard to read, but you just kind of have to keep one ear to the ground. Kind of you have to. It's a world now where you have to use social media, especially if your work is on social media, and that's how you gain your clientele. You have to learn very quickly on what does well on socials and what doesn't. All right, well, the internet's massively hindered this, but I think this
yes, because everyone's joining the stream now.
Yeah, exactly that. Everyone's joining the stream. But yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you for coming on, mate. It's been a pleasure. Finally got you on, so I appreciate you giving your time for this and staying up super late, because I know it's like 1 a.m. there now, isn't it?
It's 12:30. Yeah.
12:30. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Of course it is. Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate you doing this, bro. And no doubt I'll see you soon. I'm coming to Germany.
Thank you, man.
For the Berlin Tattoo Convention. So
you have to.
Yeah. I'm coming to Germany for the Berlin Tattoo
sick,
Convention. And are you going to be there for that or not?
No, I'll be on holidays, bro. Yeah, I'm in Ibiza, but I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll enjoy Berlin a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. I can't wait, man. Thank you very much, bro.
Thank you, bro.
Let's go.
Giving every piece of my soul. You say you don't know what I'm thinking.